cheupenyu tungamirira dai zvese Mwari Baba zvagofamba mune zvakanaka vese Mwari Baba vakwanisa kugona musangano uno dai mungatitungamirira zvaticharonga nezvatichadzidza Mwari Baba toisa maoko enyu tisakofanirwa vedu vari pakati pedu Mwari Baba dai maita kuti Mwari Baba muvachengetedze vakwanise kuramba vachitidzidzisa zvakatinakira sesu vanhu vatema namata zvese tenzi zosiyana neiyo mbiri yenyu kana usingaperi. Amen. Yes, I thank you all. We welcome you all to the I Love Black People Pan-African History class. We are delighted to have you all. You spared your time this Saturday to join us and learn more about Love Black People and how we can protect each other from racism and xenophobia. Lined up today, we are going to hear a few reports which are compiled with the country representatives. So that's what we are going to start off. Then we are going to have a speech from our co-founder, Mr. Christopher Mapondera. Then as usual, our Pan-African Healthcare class with Nana Akua. And lastly, Pan-African History class with Dr. Tyreen Wright. So thank you, we welcome you. We love you all. So to start off the call, let us have our brother, Derry Anton, to present his country report for Ghana. Yes, our brother Derry Anton, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
All right, thank you so much. You can go ahead, Ambassador, and present the report which you compiled on behalf of people in Ghana.
Okay. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to give reports about activities that went on in the Ghana group within the week. I sent my greetings to our co-founder, moderators, ambassadors, and members worldwide working in diverse ways for the success of this family, most especially the active members. May all our sacrifices never be in vain. Let's keep moving forward in unity until we achieve our goal. Activities within the week. To begin with, members who attended last week's Zoom meeting were thanked and asked to confirm their attendance for today's meeting. Those who were not able to attend the Saturday Zoom meeting were encouraged to do their best to attend today's own. We were also encouraged to invite our family and friends to join the I Love Black People family. Also, sorry, I'm coming. Okay. Please, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you clearly. You can go ahead.
Okay. Also, we're reminded to download the I Love Black People Safe Place app to identify and recommend Black-owned and Black-friendly businesses. Links were provided for easy download by iOS and Android users. In addition, newsletters for the week was kept on the group, and members encouraged to download and share the newsletters about our activities last. Furthermore, an image was kept on the page that the family is looking for paid moderators, so interested members should DM their CV to our sister Yvonne. The deadline for submission of the CV was given to be today. Last but not least, we were reminded of writing weekly reports about activities that went on in the group within the week. What we
I think we've lost our brother. I think he's facing a network challenges. Give me this opportunity to compile the report on his to complete the report on his behalf. I think he was almost done. He was only left with the COVID-19 updates. And let me just start from the COVID-19 updates, which were recorded in Ghana. Again, the COVID is not yet over. We are all obliged to adhere to our respective country rules. If you have been asked to put on face masks, kindly do so. so that you stay healthy. So Ghana has recorded a total of 161,325 cases since the emergence of COVID-19. Out of this, the active cases are 54. The number of recoveries are 159,826, and the deaths recorded so far are 1,445. Number of people vaccine doses given are 14,872,174. What I do to promote this family is that day in, day out, I tell my family and friends about the need and importance to join this family. May God be with us all. Report from Gary Anton, I Love Black People Ambassador. I am because we are. So this was the report compiled by our brother, Gary Anton from Ghana. So without wasting time, moving on next, we have so that we have our lead developer, Alex Wafula from Kenya, to give us an update about our Love Black People Safe Places application. Yes, Alex, can you hear me? All right, Yvonne, can you go ahead? I think Alex did face some network challenges. Can you go ahead and give us an update about our application? Just a quick update for at least 5 minutes before our co-founder starts his speech.
Okay, I hope you can hear me.
Yes, sir, we can hear you clearly.
Okay, so about I Love Black People Safe Places app, like the new version is already on iOS and Android. You can go to like Android or iOS, then update your app. Then what's new with the app is that you'll be able to receive notification of businesses around you asking you whether they are safe. Like, is this place Black friendly? And if you click, sorry, I have to. Yes, if you click on like, it means that that place is Black friendly. So if you're not sure about the place, or if you're like they're not Black friendly, you just click on skip. So two things are new with the I Love Black People Safe Places app is the notification. Also, we've been receiving questions from our members that they've been asking to sign up every time they're using the app, and that problem is solved. It will take more than 3 months for the app to ask you again to log in again. I think that's the two things about I Love Black People Safe Places app. And if you didn't download the app yet, my brother Watt can help us with the link in the chat section. Then you can download it and feel free to send us the feedback. You can send the feedback to me or Awad or Alex or anyone from the team, even the moderators. Your feedback would be highly appreciated. Yeah, without taking much of the time, that's what is new with the I Love Black People Safe Places app. Thank you, Awad. If there are questions, they can ask them in the chat section. I'm still on the call, I'll be able to respond to them.
All right, thank you so much, Sister Yvonne, for giving us an update. So this application is a must-have app in your phone. It's easier to use this app to recommend safe places for Black people to visit anyway. So if you know that your area is safe from racism and xenophobia, let the world know that, and let the other fellow Black people who are living somewhere else or in that area know that there are safe places for Black people, whereby they can be treated with dignity and respect if they visit those places. So let's go and continue recommending places. It's not hard to recommend more than 10 places per day when you move around. And also constantly check your notifications and make sure that you always allow the application to access the location always access the location so that you can receive notification of places where you visit. You can recommend these places whilst you're not on the application. So that's the great things which our Black people are doing. This is the first ever made application meant to protect Black people from racism and xenophobia, ever found on App Store or Google Play Store. So without wasting much time, I'm going to share the links in the chat room for those who don't have access to the application. And also on Facebook, we do have the description with the links for the application on both iOS and Android. So you're always free to download and also use the application. Make sure when you download the application, you sign up so that you can start to use it. And also invite your friends and family to download the application. We thank you all. We appreciate everyone who is still recommending businesses. We have more than, I think, 4,000, if not 3,000 plus business which we recommended using the application. It's not older than 3 months, so it's a great thing, and we appreciate all of you. Thank you so much. So without wasting much of your time, I'm going to ask our co-founder, Mr. Christopher Mapondera, to give us what he has today, words of wisdom for the Black people all over the world. Yes, Mr. Christopher Mapondera, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, thank you so
hear
much.
me too?
Yes, we can hear you clearly.
Okay, well, anyway, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to meet you on Saturdays. I welcome those, I would say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. It's a pleasure to be part of this family. And I hope you all had a wonderful week, and looking forward to a nice restful weekend as well. My topic today is on something that I constantly hear from or get asked by many young people, you know, what should I do? What profession should I go? Should I be a lawyer, a doctor, an engineer, or what should I be a business person, you know, or should I be a vendor? It's quite an interesting question, you know. I know that one of the challenges that many of us face is that we don't have adequate counselors in our schools. And some of those people we look forward to be our counselors may also need counseling themselves, you know, in this terms of how much exposure they had in the industry or in whatever is going on in the community. So that is quite a big challenge, you know, for somebody to try and figure out what should I be. I think as we move on, you know, maybe after high school, you start going to college, or after high school, you want to start looking for a job or something. Maybe you may not have the opportunity to go to university, you know, or you may not have an opportunity to go into a trade school. So that question becomes quite paramount, you know, what should I be? So what I can say is that first and foremost, try to identify those things that will make you happy. It may not necessarily be in the form of saying, well, if I become a lawyer, I'll be very happy by becoming a lawyer, or if I become a doctor, I'll be very happy by becoming a doctor. But the main issue would be, will I be happy helping other people that I need? As a doctor, you're helping people that need, you know, help, you know, their health challenges and so forth. If you're a lawyer, you're trying to help people who need, you know, legal advice. We need to navigate, you know, through the laws of the country or wherever they are and so forth. If you are a business person, again, are you going to be helping people in your community? You know, are you providing the services, you know, that your community requires? So the question of what should I be becomes very broad in one sense, but it can also be very narrow when you try to zero in on what are the things that will make you happy to do. What do you think are your strengths? Now, given that the educational system that we were exposed to during the colonial times was really geared to make us good workers, good servants, good employees, It did not prepare us to become employment creators. It did not prepare us to become critical thinkers, not to look at and analyze the issues in our communities and so forth. It did not prepare us to become creators, innovators, and so forth. So as Africa, we're going through this transitional period where we are trying to make our educational systems as relevant as possible. Secondly, recognizing that no one is going to create employment for us. No one is going to create jobs for us. No one is going to change our lives except ourselves. So which means in terms of trying to choose what you should be, you should look at your own community, look at your own society, look at your own country, say, okay, what can I do that will contribute towards the development of my country? Quite often you'll find that somebody will be saying, oh, I did a bachelor's degree in history. And then someone who may have done some science, what are you going to do with history? Where do you think you can get a job with a history degree? But what we forget is that any people who do not recognize their history, who don't understand their history, who don't follow what happened before them, will find it very difficult to determine how to move forward. That is why we find that if you don't take into account your history, quite often you'll find yourself maybe repeating the same mistakes that you did before, because you're not acknowledging and analyzing that what you did last time did not work, or if it worked well, why not build upon it, and so forth. So to me, there's no discipline that you'd say is useless. At times you find that somebody wants to major in languages, they want to do Spanish, they want to do Chinese, they want to do French, if they are in a non-French speaking country, or English, if they're in a French speaking country, or Portuguese, or whatever. So whilst it is more or less recognized that the English is the language of communication for most parts of the world, most countries have also adopted English as a language that they need to know, because the majority of international transactions are done in English. But there's nothing wrong with us having to learn languages of other people. I mean, take for instance, the Chinese, in terms of how much they will be coming to Africa. If we don't understand Chinese, those people will be sitting right next to you and planning your downfall, and you don't even know it. But if you understand their language, then at least it will be very difficult for them to plan for your destruction without you knowing what is going on. The same thing, with any, if you are in a French-speaking country, or even in France itself, if you don't understand French, those French will be saying all kinds of things that may be detrimental to your own well-being, for your country and whatever. So doing languages is also a very important discipline to have. People who can speak as many different languages as possible. Portuguese, English, Chinese, whatever. I have some friends who went to school in Russia, and they learned Russian. And when they came back home, it was quite fascinating to see that we had somebody who could, understand what was going on in Russia and interpret what was being said, or interpret the events that were taking place, and so forth. So it is imperative that again, we develop those language skills, so that we can, if anything, communicate with the rest of the world, but also understand what is going on. Because whatever goes on in other countries at times end up affecting us. For instance, right now, with this Ukrainian-Russian war going on, Africa are going to be indirectly or directly affected in the sense, that some of the countries, they import wheat and cooking oil from both Russia and from Ukraine. Now, if we were to determine, what sort of disciplines to go into, I think this war should be a good lesson for us, that no, we should not be dependent on importing stuff if we can be able to produce it ourselves. So which will lead to us determining, what discipline can I go into? This kind of challenges should be able to guide somebody, say, hey, why don't I go into food processing? Why don't I go into agriculture? So that we can produce all the wheat that we need for the whole of Africa, all the sunflower, all the soybean, so that we can be self-sufficient on our oil requirements or anything that we are importing. We should be able to do it in Africa. So which means you have to find out what sort of skills do you require to be able to do that. Well, what does it involve to become a food processor? There's so many foods that have to be processed, from one condition to the other. There's equipment that is required. There's technology behind it that is required. So you have to find out what sort of disciplines do you need to do. You need to understand, computer science, computer engineering, electrical engineering, mechanical. All those disciplines start coming to fore, because you are trying to address a particular issue, a particular problem that we are facing as Africa. At times, the achievements that we are making in Africa, they tend to be downplayed or not recognized. But the problem is that we seek recognition from outside instead of recognition amongst ourselves. For instance, I was reading not too long ago, that there's a company in Nigeria that is making, military vehicles. And for I think one of the European countries, Belarus, is some of the military hardware from Nigeria. Now, nobody would have thought, that we could be doing that. But again, we are doing it. There's so many other things that African inventors are doing, but because we are not recognizing it ourselves, we tend to downplay what it is. And of course, the Western countries, the European countries will not want to promote that, because that starts, biting into their own domain. They want to be the only sole producers of military hardware, and then they can, try to use Africa as a dumping ground for archaic military hardware that they no longer need. They'll give it to us, and then have us kill each other, with those military weapons, which we don't need. But as an African people, I think we can start making our own in order to address our own situations in Africa. We should be producing those type of equipment as a deterrent, so that it discourages people to just come and invade us in Africa, or encourage us to be fighting against each other whilst they are busy looting our own resources. So in summary, I'll say the question of what should I do with my life should be based on you. What is it that you find joy in doing? Given that you now have the internet, if you have access to it, you Google or search the internet and see what does it take to do whatever you are interested in doing. Of course, the basis for anything is being able to know and learn basic rudiments of education, your English, your maths, your whatever language you're into, the sciences, technology, and so forth. These are now the basis of which you can build upon. Our aim should be to make Africa as self-sufficient as possible in all spheres, food security, technology, and health, all those things. We can be able to do them ourselves, but we just have to start building institutions that give us the proper training to be able to address those particular issues. So basically, this is what I have for you today. I'm not so much concerned to say, well, be a lawyer, be a doctor, be an engineer. I mean, these are all careers one can get into. But the most important question should be, what is it that I will do with the skills that I have for the betterment of Africa, for the betterment of my community, of my people, and first and foremost, of yourself as an individual. If you are not developed yourself, then you cannot be able to develop other people. Just make sure that the first and foremost person that should be developed is yourself. Be clear what your objectives are in terms of what you can do for your community, for yourself, for your country. And then that way you'll be able to address the issues that confront us as a people. So that's what I have for you. If you have any questions, I'll be very glad to answer. We don't have time for it today. Just post them and maybe I can address them next week. Okay, thank you, Awad. I think that is my piece for today.
All right, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. We learned a lot. So I hope each and everyone have learned from our co-founder, Mr. Christopher Mapondela. He did give us something which we should consider in our lives, and also we should things which we enjoy. So we should not. I can see in the chat room there are no questions, as well as on Facebook. If you do have any questions on Facebook, you can kindly write in the comment section, and here on Zoom you can write in the chat room so that the co-founder will respond to your questions. Even if you do have some feedbacks, and also if you have a comment, don't hesitate to use the chat room to do so. The co-founder will respond. And also, if you do have any questions, you can write them. You can respond to them next week when we meet again for our Saturday Zoom meeting. During his slot, the co-founder will answer those questions. Yes, I see that there's no one who did raise a question or pose a question through the chat room, as well as on Facebook. There's no question in the comment section. We thank you so much, Mr. Christopher Mapondela, for leading us through this speech.
Yeah, okay, thank you so much. You all have a wonderful weekend and a wonderful week. Okay, bye.
Thank you. Okay, I see Florine, you did reach out saying, I don't have any questions. I teach in Guyana. I would like to get stories and pictures about children in Africa that you can use in teachings. Hopefully we'll respond to you with this comment. Thank you all for reaching out through the chat room. Florine, we appreciate you. So lined up today, again, we're going to have our Pan-African Healthcare lecture with Nana Akua. So we'll be studying about the herbals and natural resources which we can use as Black people for our well-being. So don't miss out this lecture. It's good for us as Black people to use our natural remedies to cure certain diseases and also to stay fit and healthier. Welcome again, Nicholas. I can see you did reach out in the chat room. It has always been my passion to support children and young single mother, but I don't know how I can start over this. Hopefully, with the help of our fellow Black people, you get assistance to your passion and don't stop to do what you like. Is what our co-founder did express in his speech. You can go ahead and do what you feel like doing, and also you can do it as Black people. We are strong. Yes, so again, I was saying we still have lectures which are coming up. Nana Okua will start this lecture in a minute, and also after Nana Okua, we're going to have a Pan-African history lecture from Dr. Tyrene Wright. I can see Nana Okua haven't joined us now. Yeah, I see Andrew Magombo reached out. He was supposed to give us a speech about he was supposed to give us a report, but he said you will do so next week. There's a blackout in his country, in Zambia. Couldn't accompany his speech, so you will be joining us next week. Again, I think Elijah Nyabuti, are you with us? And do you have anything to say or the progress or people have responded to the meetups which are scheduled in a month or two? And also, do you have dates? If you do so, kindly give us an update. Yes, Elijah Nyabuti, can you hear me? We have only 3 minutes or 4 minutes to just give us an update on the meetups.
Yes, I can hear you, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. You can go ahead and just brief. And also, if you still need anything from our members and ambassadors so that they can reach out to you. And also, if so, you can include your number in the chat room. So we are organizing meetups. So you can get in touch with Elijah Nyabuti so that he can give you updates and also on what needs to be done for those meetups to happen. So Elijah, you can go ahead. You do have 4 minutes to do so, to just give us an update about the meetups which you are organizing.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ward. First of all, let me thank our able committee members from different countries who volunteered to help us in preparation for ILoveBlackPeople movement country meetups. The team has done a tremendous job. So far, we have venues from Kenya, Uganda, Sierra Leone, Rwanda, Ghana, Tanzania, Nigeria, and these are safe Black-owned places where we will hold our meetings. So far, I have been able to collect information from the following Black-owned hotels and restaurants suggested by the country committee members. And so far, I think we have Sunshine Hotel from Kenya, Elegushi Beach, then Vibe Hideout from Nigeria, Lion Hotel from Tanzania. We have Tunza Beach Hotel from Tanzania also. We have Garile Paradise Hotel from Sierra Leone, Obumwe Grand Hotel from Rwanda, Mambo Hotel from Uganda, and 2K Restaurant from Uganda, and La Campne Tropical Beach Resort from Nigeria. We are working with our co-founder, Mr. Sinclair Skinner, to determine the date and the venue of the meeting. So by the end of this month, we'll be done with the dates of the meeting and venue. Soon we'll give out the date and the venue of the first physical meetup. And to my fellow members and ambassadors, I encourage you, my fellow Black family, when time comes, let's in solidarity invite Black people, friends, and family members to join us in that meeting. This is our moment to fight racism and xenophobia. We are expecting our members and ambassadors to invite friends from other countries, all from different ethnic groups, to join us when the time comes. Finally, my brothers and sisters, let's say no racism and xenophobia And also let's download this application of I Love Black People and recommend safe places where Black people are treated with dignity and respect. God bless you. I am because we are. So, Mr. Ward, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you so much. Sorry, I was on mute. We appreciate you. I can see, did you check the chat room? Derry Anton did ask, what about Ghana? And also Manta Mala asked about Zambia. So Derry Anton, you can, Elijah, can you kindly drop your phone number in the chat room so that Manta Omala and Derry Anton can reach out to you so that maybe you can tell them what needs to be done for their countries to be included in the meetups as well.
Okay, before I post my contacts, you know, we gave out the information earlier before. We posted to all the country groups that we need country committee members who will assist us in organizing meetups. So by the end of the deadline, we had only 8 countries which submitted which we got the volunteers who submitted their names to help us in organizing. So my brother from Zambia, I think it is not too late. Maybe I can reach out with him so that we can organize, maybe to see if we will include the Zambia group in the meeting group. So I will share my contacts in the group so that any member or ambassador who want to reach me, you can contact me through that number via WhatsApp. Thank you, Mr. Awad Ngwenya. I'll post my number.
All right, thank you so much, Elijah Nyabuti. So this is the reason why we need members and ambassadors to be active in our Pan-African groups and also to participate well and also to check the messages shared by moderators in the group as well. That you keep updated about information for what's going on with ILoveBlackPeople, what we achieved. Without wasting time, I can see Nana Koa have joined us. So I hope we are all ready for the okay.
Okay. Good day, everyone. How are you, Ward?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Actually, not feeling too great today, so you all have to bear with me. I'll still try to keep a smile, but I am not feeling too well, but we're gonna get through it, right?
Yes, sure.
So greetings, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. Hey, Vaughn. Hello, all you beautiful Black people that are showing me your faces. I appreciate it. You'll help me get through, I'm sure, right? So, so last week we started talking about herbs and some other natural healing modalities. And so we talked, I think, quite a bit about herbs. And so now today we will focus on some other natural healing plants and remedies. So we'll talk about superfoods, we'll talk about essential oils, and homeopathic remedies. So hopefully, if you all, and I'm really curious, has anyone prior to taking the classes heard about homeopathy or know what homeopathic remedies are? Really new to you? I'm hoping that everyone's familiar with herbs and herbal healing. But we know that homeopathic remedies are natural healing remedies, but are rooted in different natural occurring substances. So they may be herb or plant-based, or they may come from minerals, or they may come from even some insects or animal parts, but all natural occurring, not man-made, not synthetic remedies. if anyone is familiar with homeopathy or homeopathic remedies, I'd be interested to know. I'm just scrolling through. And if you'll allow me, I think Award or Yvonne, whoever is controlling, if you'll allow me to share the screen. If one of you will allow me to share the screen.
Yes, I think yes, you are
Okay.
allowed to share the screen.
Yeah, it just came up. Oh, Lord. Of course, everything except what I'm trying to show is on here. And I surely tried pulling it up. Why is that not? Not today, not today. This is not the day. See, we've had all these weeks of everything going smoothly with me sharing the screen. And now today, when I don't feel like any of it, it is not allowing me to do it. You are probably looking at a whole bunch of stuff at this point. I don't think it's, what are you saying, Award? I know that it's only fooling me and acting like it's showing up. I know it's not showing up.
Yes, it's not showing up. You can't see anything.
Well, let me just say, I'm in too much pain to be bothered with this little screen share thing. So we're gonna talk, you can just have to look at me. So homeopathy is what, or Award, I think I sent you, I know I sent Yvonne, I sent you all the packets. I know when you were trying to share it a few weeks ago, it didn't really, I think it was a little difficult. But if in the meantime, I know you all in the background doing other things, but if you're able to pull it up, that would be great. I think the people would prefer to see the information, or I think, not that you'd probably not want to look at my pretty face, but I'm just saying we learn, and so I would like you to see the actual names of the remedies and such. I think that would be better, as much as I love looking in people's faces. So if you are, Yvonne, Award, are able to pull up the week 2 lesson packet, that would be great. Let me know, but
I think Yvonne can share the week 2.
Yeah, I think it was Yvonne doing it last time, but it was some difficulty with it. But anyway, so homeopathy is what pharmacology is based off of. So, there are many natural remedies that we use. Herbs is just a very broad view and type of medicines that's used. But homeopathy, you'll usually find in most drugs, even regular pharmacies or drugstores now carry remedies, definitely stores, but usually you will find them up. I always say, y'all know I be looking around every day we do this class. One day I'm gonna just sit some stuff in here that I usually want to reference or show, but it's too much stuff. But every time I talk about the remedies out and show you. But usually you'll find homeopathic remedies in tablet or pellet form. And it's already made up to be taken what we call sublingually. And so sublingually means you take it under the tongue and it absorbs into the mucous membranes in the mouth, in the lining of the mouth. And it doesn't go through the digestive system, so it can get into your bloodstream much quicker. So it's a good option if you're having sort of an acute So of course, y'all know I ain't took none today. So see, that's my bad, right? I need to go take some homeopathic remedies. But so I don't know if you all have been online when I've talked about the personal care plan. I think that's part of next week, but I'm having a pain I don't usually have, so it's not in the forefront of my mind to sort of what to do about it. But I've talked previously about a personal care plan where you pretty much write out beforehand, right? Before you're in a crisis of pain or some health issue, some kind of, outbreak keeps coming to mind. That's not the word I really want to use, but if your hay fever or your sinuses flare up, or if you have an asthma attack, or if you have some kind of pain or inflammation, usually it's easiest to do this when you have conditions like on a chronic level where you have ongoing issues. It's always good to kind of write down before you have that occurrence as to what it is that you take. What do you take? What do you eat? What do you drink? What helps ease the pain? What brings you comfort? Who to call on when there's an issue? What other natural healing remedies can be done? When is it that you need to go to the hospital or to an emergency room or critical care or urgent care, facility. So it looks like as I age, I'm getting some pains that I'm not used to getting. Well, it could be all that seafood I eat, or maybe a little bit too much salt. Who knows? But I'm a little inflamed and having some body pains right now. So my age is catching up with me. I'm a little older than I look. But homeopathic remedies are certainly one of our options for addressing health issues. And usually when we're having sort of chronic issues that we need to address immediately, because herbs are great, but we have to, in whatever form we take them internally, herbs we have to swallow, and it has to go through our digestive system. The great thing about homeopathic remedies is that it goes more directly and quickly into the bloodstream because you're taking it sublingually. So we know that there are all sorts of remedies. A lot are plant-based, some are mineral-based, and even a few are animal or insect-based. But these are natural substances that heal various health conditions. And usually they'll come in kits to where it'll be very clear. They'll come with instructions as to what to use for what. If there is allium, which it comes from the onion, right? We know that allium is good for all those kinds of cold and flu symptoms, like watery eyes, runny nose, things of that nature, things that actual onion might cause you, right? Because the concept behind homeopathy is that like cures like. So in one environment, what food or plant or remedy causes a condition, it can also, in the right dosing, heal or treat that condition. So that's sort of some more information about how homeopathy works. We know that there are remedies like magnesium phosphate that is a homeopathic remedy. It's mineral-based, and we know that it's good for menstrual cramps or other cramping, spasmodic pain. So it's an antispasmodic. So there are many, many remedies. The handouts give sort of some first aid remedies there. Maybe if I try again. No, actually, I don't know why it won't bring it up. And I guess award hadn't been able to get to Yvonne to pull it up. But anyway, homeopathy is a great option. Someone put in the comments, it should definitely be encouraged. I completely agree. I don't know on the continent how easily it is to be found, but if you're able to order and have it shipped to you, that's a good option in terms of some natural healing for any conditions that you may have. Whether it's boosting the immune system, whether it's fighting off the cold and flu, whether it's inflammation, whether it's stomach issues. if there's diarrhea, there's one in China, of course, the homeopathic abbreviation is China. And so it's really good if you have lost a lot of water from having diarrhea, you know, purging and cleansing the body. So that weakness and that kind of the depleted feeling that you get from that type of thing, that China comes in and restores the body, helps to balance out, you know, whatever's going on in the colon, and helps to alleviate the, you know, all of the issues with the diarrhea. So there are many different remedies for homeopathic medicine. There's one called chamomilla that comes from the chamomile plant. So it is a herb-based homeopathic, and it will help kind of calm you down. A lot of times it's used for infants with awesome. I see they're working this out to give us some visual. But chamomilla is often used for like teething and colic and kind of settling a baby. The first time I took my firstborn on the plane, I gave her some teething tablets, which mainly was the chamomilla. And that was to basically keep her calm during the flight. A lot of times children and even adults will suffer from, you know, that air in your ears and that popping and that real, just sometimes severe pain in the ears. I wanted to avoid all of that from happening for her. So I gave her the chamomilla in the teething tablets, and it worked great. So sometimes these are things that can be used to kind of ward off issues, or of course to address them as we have them occur. And if you all are able to scroll down as you're showing this, that would be great. If you can get down to where it talks about the homeopathic remedies. So, but homeopathy is great. It's a good idea. It just comes with some instructions, some kind of preparation. You have to take it on what's called a clean mouth, meaning you have to take it away from food or away from drinking anything other than water. You have to take it away from brushing your teeth or goggling, you know, with mouthwash or anything like that. You want it to be on a clean, natural mouth, not so that it doesn't interfere. That some aromas and fragrances interfere with the effectiveness of homeopathic remedies. So that's why you can't have certain, even a homeopathic toothpaste or a mint-free toothpaste is recommended. So it's very powerful, very useful. My children have always, even though I'm an herbalist first, and I've been an herbalist for so long, children's better to homeopathic. So, you know, experiment with it. Some people will take better to herbs, some people will take better to homeopathy. Some people will take better to healing with foods, juicing, or eliminating certain foods and fasting and things of that nature. So there are just so many, you know, tools that we have to heal ourselves naturally, and having all the information is great, but you may have to spend some time experimenting what works best for you, because everybody is different. Even with the same condition, even with the same symptoms, your body and my body will not respond the exact same way with apis or antimonium tart or nux vomica. You know, these are some homeopathic remedies. So, and the information, I have the information, I'm just not able to pull it up on the screen. So it can be shared. You can email me, ask for a copy of the handout. Someone was just asking if it was going to be shared. So just for visual effects, so you can follow along today, we're trying to pull it up, but certainly so that you would have, you can email me, and certainly we can get that to you. It's a hefty packet. Now that we're doing the 30-minute sessions, I have not yet separated the 4 packets into 8 packets. So, so we're cutting in half the 2 packets. But what I will send you, if you request, I can't really type right now. So, so if when a ward is done trying to show the thing, if he'll put my email address, that would be fine. Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, and sometimes, you know, what we call things one place is not what we call things another place. So yes, you may have some familiarity with some of these things. And I know we're all dealing, oh yeah, thanks Award. So he's put my email there. So feel free to email me and request the documents. But yeah, so, and I really appreciate all of you who English is not your first language. Because language can be a barrier, definitely have different terms throughout the world. So I hope that you following me and can kind of keep up with my limited words and language in terms of how to explain these things. So hopefully you are following along, but I know someone said that they're familiar with not some of the terminology. So, but yes, but the basic concept is just always resort to nature first. If you can. And of course, if there is something more acute or more terminal, and you've tried other things, or you're sort of at a severe state, then of course, that's when we would call on some more modern, you know, technology and medicines if it's, you know, situation or emergency situation. But when we can use natural remedies, that's what we want to do. So let's talk about essential oils a little bit. So essential oils, we know it's a distilling process that they extract oils from certain flowering plants that are used in what we call aromatherapy. Right? Using the essential oils in baths, as compresses, you know, topically on the body, in massage oils while getting different body work done, massage, reflexology, that sort of thing. We know that essential oil may be used in a diffuser. I do have to have one of those right here, but like a diffuser where you open it and put water and some drops of the oil in, and you get the benefits of the aroma. So this one, for example, is one called Health Shield, and this has I know it has cinnamon. It has a blend, so it just kind of helps to create like a healing environment. So it has clove and cinnamon and eucalyptus and lemon and rosemary in it. But we know essential oils may be used in bath and beauty products, so creams, shampoos, hair oils, hair pomades, lotions, you name it. So we know that essential oils have a lot of healing benefits. I usually try to encourage people to go on some of the more popular ones like lavender and peppermint and eucalyptus. And we learn more about the uses of, say, sandalwood or neroli, or frankincense and myrrh. Even though they're pretty popular, most people are only familiar with the aromatic effects. But sandalwood, for example, is very good for your skin. And myrrh, for example, is good for stimulating the thyroid. So a lot of the essential oils have internal healing properties and not just good for just the aroma of it. So one of my, and even though peppermint is very popular, it is one of my favorites because I really like how it really keeps your sinuses open if you suffer with allergies or sinuses, hay fever, things of that nature, so asthma. These, and eucalyptus I don't like as much, but eucalyptus is also good for this, but it also is good for just keeping the respiratory system really cleansed and detoxed. But like I said, a more unpopular or not as popular oil is something like neroli. Neroli can be helpful with lowering your blood pressure, among other things. I usually will add sandalwood with my lavender. I make a lavender oil or salve, a lavender, I forget what I call it now. Whatever. It's a cream, it's an ointment. And that's a nice blend with the lavender, is the sandalwood. But there are also many other oils that are good. I mentioned cinnamon in the little blend that I just showed. Other than the fragrance of cinnamon itself, we know that cinnamon is an antidepressant. It has antiviral properties. It's good for colds, arthritis, rheumatism, things of that nature. So there are a lot of essential oils that have a lot of good healing effects. If for mental acuity, just staying sharp, things like rosemary oil is really good for. That might be something. I think lemon and rosemary mixed together is a really nice combination, but that helps you be more alert, helps your mind be a little more clear, things like that. If you are trying to kind of spruce up your energy, kind of elevate, yourself, be a little more energetic, a little more vital, your citrus oils are going to be great for that. Your orange, your lemon, your grapefruit, cedar wood, another one that's not as popular, cinnamon, all of them kind of elevate or raise your energy. So sleep is another one. A lot of times people will suffer from low energy, but it's mainly because they're not sleeping well, or they're having insomnia, or they're really stressed. So sleep is important. So there are definitely some oils that are really good for sleep, such as cedarwood, bergamot, sage, some of the citrus oils like mandarin. So remember to kind of go to these types of things for your healing as well. And then the last part is the superfoods. We've spoken before, and basically superfoods is a tool or a group of foods, tools you can add to your natural medicine, healing box, right? Is just to know foods that have so much nutrition in them that they're considered superfoods. So they may have a number of vitamins and minerals and antioxidants and things that really help boost the system, the immune system, the immune response, give you certain nutrition that will ward off certain illnesses and conditions. And so there are several of these foods that fall into this category. So almond seeds, blueberries, cinnamon, avocados, sweet potatoes. All of these are considered to be really highly nutritive foods that are excellent for including in your daily routine. And then people who are into shakes and smoothies, things like that, there are a number of dried berries and seeds or are using in their smoothies and such that have a lot of nutrition. Things like mangosteen and chia seeds and maca powder, goji berries or wolfberries, seaweed, acai berries. All of these things are great for increasing your nutrition and adding on to boosting up your immune system and your immune response to disease. So I'm not sure, and there's some lists that will give many other food items that they would consider in the superfood list. And if you're in the group, I did send those to the group, the WhatsApp group. But if there are any questions, I'm scrolling through. I don't think I've missed any questions. But yes, always, whatever diet you follow, and usually I'm not one that's going to say, hey, be a vegetarian or don't eat this or don't eat that, but make sure that what you do eat is full of nutrition. Try to choose some healthier options. If there are some occasions where you're doing other foods, include some other meals that are going to give you highly nutritive qualities. so that everything is not an empty calorie, everything is not void of any nutrition that's going to be helpful for you to be as vital as possible and as energetic as possible. Water is always an option that you should choose first. As we've spoken about before, half your weight in ounces is going to be a good option for you in terms of your water intake, limiting sodas, teas, juices, because even juices have fruit sugars, and a lot of juices are not just naturally sweetened. They have added high fructose corn syrup or other sugars to them. So be mindful of what you're putting into your body in terms of making good choices for giving your body optimal nutrition. So I don't know if anyone has anything. I'm almost at my time. Next week, we will go into relaxation therapy, stress release. We'll talk about healing crystals. We'll talk about breathing exercises. We'll talk about how to relax the body, because we know that stress is a cause of many conditions, of many illnesses. So thank you all for joining me and indulging me today, knowing I'm probably not as cheerful, but thanks for hanging in there with me, and I will see you back here next week. And as always, I bid you good health and peace.
Thank you so much, Nana Akua, for a wonderful lecture. And then for those who are requesting handouts, I did drop the email for Nana Akua, one@gmail.com. You can reach out to her and to resend those links again so that you can get in touch and download our application, which we are using currently to recommend safe places for Black people to visit, so where they are treated with dignity and respect. So I'm going to reshare those links for those who don't have our application. I would encourage you to go ahead and download it. Good news is it's both on Android and iOS. So both Apple users and the Android users, you can get access to the ILoveBlackPeople places. If you're not familiar in using the application, we do have moderators. I can see that we do have Edward Safa in this meeting. They can assist you in downloading the application and also on how best you can use it. It's not big, and it does not consume much of your space on your phones. And also it's easy to use, less bugs. So I would encourage each and every one of you to use it and recommend safe places near you. You can recommend 10 safe places within a space of 2 minutes or a minute. So it's fast. So each and every day you can recommend places using the application. All you need is to download it and sign up. After signing up, your token doesn't expire. It will expire after 9 months, which is a great deal. You do not need to keep on logging into the application. It's a once-off login and can expire after 9 months. So we encourage each and everyone to download it. Most of our members have it now, but some of you doesn't have the application. So do download it and give us your feedback. And also, if you do have any features or anything you would like us to aid on the application, we'd appreciate it. And also, I can see there's someone who is eating. Can you kindly disable your video, or we can do it for you? You can either hear whilst your video is off, so that you cannot disturb others who are serious and who want to participate in this meeting. Thank you. I can see Dr. Tarin Wright has joined us. Without wasting much time, we can go ahead and continue with the Pan-African history class. Yes, Dr. Tarin Wright, can you hear me?
Yes, I'm here. I can hear you. you'll be able to see me in a second, right? I can show my camera.
All right.
Okay, so welcome everyone. Hello. Let me see if you can see me. Oh, okay. Hello everyone. Welcome to the Pan-African History and Organizing class for I Love Black People. So you should have read chapter 6 of the book, which was the African exclusion measure. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that and why we would even look at such a case. Hello, someone said hello. Why we would look at look at such a case. And I'm glad that I came in while the discussion, actionable engagement was going on, because that's the point, right? So our conversation has been about the history of Pan-Africanism, what that meant, unity for the purpose of eradicating oppression and exploitation of African people and Black people everywhere we are, right? And so that's what you should have gotten out of chapter 2 that we read from the book 2 Washington Africa. And then this past week, we came in with the readings on the African exclusion measure, which is an evidentiary case, a case where you see someone organize, right, and challenge US legislation that would have excluded any person of the African or Black race from the United States from 1915 onwards. And that was none other than Booker T. Washington. Most people don't know that, right? That is part of the case. And he's doing that on behalf of African people globally. So challenging, pushing against US legislation and legislators on behalf of, to the benefit and on behalf of African people internationally, not within the United States, but from outside, right? And so we know we have that dynamic too, right? Various African people, but who tend to, you know, sometimes internalize white supremacy and culture and not act on behalf of each other. So in this case, you see someone who is born in the United States advocate for African people who are outside of the United States. And why would we look at that? We look at that because that is certainly not just because the people are, that is certainly an example of Pan-Africanism, not just because the people who he's engaging in advocacy for are outside of the United States, but because of the fact that he is very acutely aware of the fact that he wants to do it to the benefit, right? At the time, Tuskegee was established and there was a steady stream of students coming from the African continent to Tuskegee. Tuskegee was also a hub for African and Black students in the Caribbean, Central and South America, okay? A lot of people don't know that. That being said, one of his main motivations for challenging this piece of US legislation was to make sure that that steady flow of students could still and always continue to come to the United States and learn and take their skills back to their respective communities of origin. And so we're looking at it as an example of Pan-Africanism because it's not an intangible. It would change US legislation for next, I know, right? This is sort of a hot topic when we talk about African immigration, because we have the situation of Africans coming out of Haiti, right, who were stopped recently at the border. Now you see, you're getting a very different set of outcomes with Ukraine, right? They're welcoming Eastern European refugees to the United States and even giving $40 billion to the United States as to Ukraine. However, Haitian refugees after a natural disaster and political unrest are what? Turned away. Okay, so you must imagine if this change in US legislation had never take place, it would even be more hostile, meaning there would be absolutely no way for African people outside of the United States to come into the United States, be it for work and or for education. And it also changed the demographic of the African community within the United States for those who came and stayed, didn't just come and go to school and return. So it would impact our community largely and hopefully to our benefit, because anytime we exercise our right to move around the world freely, I think that that is the direction that we want to go. Okay. So since you all have read the case, I want to field questions. I'm gonna do things a little differently this time. I want to field questions really quick about the case, the African exclusion measure. If you want to jump in the chat and ask some questions about that, because there's another case I usually use in the context of this course, but because we're shortening things, I gave you the shortest case and the most potent case that would emphasize what action looks like, right? Like what someone taking action to the collective benefit of African and Black people would look like, right? And that case is a short and sweet, decisive example of that. I'm going to be introducing your upcoming readings for next week, for this week right here, which will be the last week that we're in, and it'll look at how Pan-Africanist thought played out for other people like Du Bois, who took the organizational route and creating organizational bodies, right? How did he express his form of Pan-Africanism, and what were the benefits? As I said in the beginning of the seminar, we're always looking, it's not Pan-Africanist if there is nothing that we can measure and weigh at the end, right? So when people always, there's an active conversation around Pan-Africanism, at least here in the Western Hemisphere, like, what if Pan-Africanism done for us? For those who know about ADOS, and then those who subscribe to a more Pan-Africanist line, a lot of people who oppose Pan-Africanism ask, what does it produce for us? And that's just precisely the right question to ask. Pan-Africanism, by definition, should always produce something for us, right? It's not just enough to gather, right? So also too, I just want to state that in the context, I don't know if I'm going to do it in this session, but I see that that's already a conversation when I came in. Part of what you will be doing in here, because it's always backed with action, we'll be walking through the app, right? Because that is the action you're engaging. That is what you're going to do for Black people and African people to find out what is safe, or share what is that you places and spaces and services that are safe for us, right? And that are about the preservation of our life, our well-being, and our dignity, right? So, but I want to check real quick into the app into the chat. If people have questions about the African exclusion measure, this would be a good time to get them answered, so I can further describe or explain any details about that case, so that we have, a fuller understanding. Okay, nobody has any questions? Okay. How many people were actually able to read the case as it was posted in the app, in WhatsApp? Chime in the chat. Did you read the case? Who was able to read the case? I hope some folks were able to read the case, so I'm not just talking. Okay, so I'm going to reiterate and I'll repost it in there so that it's a more recent thing because I don't see any questions. So then what I'm going to do is just talk a little bit about what the upcoming reading is, and then how that is going to relate to the theme of the course. And the upcoming readings are on Du Bois, W.E.B. Du Bois. There are also some readings you will have by Nkrumah, Kwame Nkrumah, because historically we know that Pan-Africanism, while created and emerging in the, or I wouldn't even say created, I would say it becomes the phrase, the phrase is coined out here in the diaspora. Okay, I got one question. It was supposed to be about the case, the question, but I'll answer. The phrase Pan-Africanism is coined in the Western Hemisphere by diasporic Africans. However, it doesn't mean that it didn't always exist, right? I think it exists from the moment we leave the shores of Africa and arrive in the Americas, right? We are always trying to come together. Kwame Ture, AKA Stokely Carmichael, he always says, blood is thicker than, he said, because he is an ancestor now, he said, blood is thicker than water. That's why everywhere we are coming together. So in other words, although we as African people have been scattered, right, around the world and into the Western Hemisphere under unsavory circumstances, we are blood. Right? And blood is thicker than water that separates us. And so we continue to come together. But so I believe that Pan-Africanism has always existed since our scattering. But the phrase is coined around 1900, right? By Henry Sylvester Williams. You read that in chapter 2, the first chapter you read in this seminar, called Booker T. Washington, Pan-Africanism and Pan-Africanists. However, it would have its highest expression on the African continent when people like Nkrumah assert that the independence of Ghana can not only be about Ghana, but it must lead to the total liberation and unification of the African continent, right? And so we will delve a little bit into Nkrumah's philosophy and practice around Pan-Africanism. How did he come to understand Pan-Africanism and how did he express it, right? So we will be looking at individual expressions of Pan-Africanism in the last week and organizational bodies expressions of Pan-Africanism. Meaning Du Bois would express his Pan-Africanism as the initiator of something called the Pan-African Congresses as a result of being a participant in the first Pan-African Conference in 1900. All of this is in chapter 2, the chapter that we read on Pan-Africanism. He would create an organizational body that would be the think tank for African leadership on the continent to strategize in terms of continental liberation from imperialist nations and colonialism, and ultimately how to move towards continental unity, right? So we will look at that. Individual expressions, philosophies of like Marcus Garvey, Du Bois, but then the manifestation of organizational bodies like the Pan-African Congresses, the continuous Congresses that would assist in the ideological development that led to many African liberation struggles and ultimately to another organizational body that would come out of it, right? The OAU, the Organization of African Unity, and then ultimately the African Union. And there's much to speak about there because today we can still debate about whether or not the African Union, which is the modern manifestation of all those organizational bodies, right? Initiated by Du Bois and others, and then, you know, the congresses, the Pan-African Congresses, and then the Organization of African Unity, and then now it is expressing itself as the African Union. We can debate about whether or not the African Union itself is living up to the ultimate ideal and mission and vision that is Pan-Africanist to advance continental unity. Today, and I can tell you a little bit about that because I have participated in some African Union activities along those lines. But in 2004, I was a delegate to a conference called the First Conference of Intellectuals for Africa and the Diaspora. And at that time, that we were, myself and 500 other African intellectuals were brought to Dakar, Senegal, to give recommendations to the African Union on how we can move towards continental unity and what that would look like in every area of life, right? Economically, in terms of education, politically, and otherwise, right? Well, at that time, there was no unified African passport, hadn't even been initiated. There was no Pan-African free trade initiated, right? There was non-regional unity of various currency, you know, in that very country where this conference was held, we were using what are you using? Senegal. I forget, but anyway, I shouldn't have forget because I lived in Senegal. But you know, the point is that those things didn't exist. And today they do, 20 years later, right? So while it's baby steps, they are steps that are moving towards the right direction. Now, the criticism I could give of the African Union is that I think it should be moving faster, right? It should be moving faster. But just to be very real about why we don't have continental unity in Africa, meaning functioning as one unified nation, a continent that's expressing itself as a nation. And I'm a little familiar with the conversation because at the time of that 2004 conference, there were people who were pushing that. And then there were people who were very lukewarm or cold to that in terms of leadership. And regionally, at the time, people like Abdoulaye Wade and people like Gaddafi were interested in regional unity in West Africa. But you have to understand, for African presidents, heads of states all over the continent to become unified as a one nation, those presidents would not be president, right? They would have to be a part of the whole, and which means to give up some measure of power, right? And our continuous struggle is getting people to give up the desire for individual wealth and even the opportunity to exploit the economy of their individual countries to come together and invest in our collective good, right? I mean, the key reason why there's not continental unity today on the African continent is simply because most presidents and heads of states would not want to give up their power, right? And maybe this would not be the term because we would have to make this manifest in the way that we needed to, but perhaps you giving up the presidency to become a governor instead of a president, right? So you still legislate and have some decision-making control over your region, your state in the union, but you are no longer the head of state, so to speak, right? Or the president. And when we think about somehow some of our leadership has manifested, we know that some people, that is a hard thing to swallow, right? But I do believe, because of three things, that's going to change. You all, there's a lot of our people here you see, and I Love Black People, are all over the continent of Africa. And we have 1.4 to 6 billion young people on the African continent who are 30 years old or younger, who are connected to the rest of the world, who are the fastest, the participants in the fastest growing entrepreneur markets in the world, which is the African continent. And the African continent, without a doubt, is the holder of a bulk of the world's most important resources, right? The world's resources are concentrated on the equator, with the concentration in the Congo, with a bulk of it being in the Congo and the 9 surrounding countries, the heart of Africa. So all of those things, three things, just kind of set Africa up for the trajectory that the next generation, the younger generation, probably will not tolerate, president for life type of behavior, and will probably push and have the power and ingenuity to push for something that is a little bit more beneficial to the masses, right? Because the numbers in Africa in terms of population are not going down, they're going up. And Africa is very young, right? Still, while the rest of the world is old. I live in the United States. The average white American, who makes up 75% of the population, is 60 years old or older. The average person in Africa is 30 years old or younger. The math, 20 years is nothing to Africa, right? And so that generation being connected to the rest of the world, they're not going to tolerate, this very extreme leaders from the aristocracy or the elites of Africa, who are not going to share power with the people, or the people are not going to stand for not being the beneficiaries of the best of what Africa has to offer, right? So I'm going to look at the questions. I have 3 right now. Hello, Oscar from Zambia. And then I see, okay, good. Oh, you didn't see the case in the Zoom? In the WhatsApp? I'm going to post the case again along with the final articles, so you guys can see that. I'll do that shortly after we get off. And then I have one question from Gershon. It says, I believe a platform like this push for Pan-Africanism like this, that pushes for Pan-Africanism. In this case, what's the modern call for action to liberate Africa economically? Well, I think and then the other question is how do you think Africa will be united while countries are having conflicting interests? I think countries have conflicting interests, possibly. Well, how can they unite? One, the key unifying factor, and I get that Africa is, the heart, the home of humanity. So, like I've said in the previous lectures, that we are the oldest friends, foes, family, right? We have been here since the dawn of humanity, and so our relationships and our good and bad predate the advent of the European. However, once the European emerges and imposes these systems, and because of their own need to capture resources, comes out of Europe and into Africa and exploits Africa's human resource and material resources, this has created the need for us to unify. I think it's complicated, but I think I just already sort of inadvertently answered that question. How do we get unity in Africa when countries still have their conflicts? Well, one of the things that's going to happen is that we're going to have to be able to see our common interest, right? We're not going to be able to see our common interest if we don't look at the facts. So in other words, if one of the last issues that we get to is the fact that almost every African economy is exploited by European nations, and that is in essence why a very wealthy continent has in dollars and cents terms still people who are not economically advancing. Well, we're going to have to come to terms with the fact that we have to address the common issue, right? Like, for instance, and this is happening, for instance, the Congo recently basically said that they are going to put an end to foreign mining in the nation. I don't know if any of you stay abreast of those kind of issues, but I do. And they made it clear that there will not be any foreign nations mining in the Congo. That's a major step. Okay, it's many light years after the death of Patrice Lumumba, who would have been an advocate, believed that the power of the Congo should belong to the Congolese people, right? And he lost his life in that struggle, right? To choose who would benefit the Congo and over Congolese unity, okay? As a result, you understand the United States infiltrated and caused a coup, right? Mobutu Sese Seko is involved in aligning itself with the US that had Patrice Lumumba assassinated. And that took the Congo from Belgian colonialism. If you can imagine a hand in a pot. At one time, only Belgium's hand was in the pot that was the Congo. Post Patrice Lumumba's assassination under Mobutu, and the United States, because certainly was the United States, you can see many little white hands in the Congo. It has opened it up to international colonialism. So now the United States and every other European nation has their hand in the Congo, extracting resources from the Congo, okay? And he died over that very issue, right? Because the United States couldn't get cobalt and coltan anywhere else in the world. The Soviets have their own supply, but he was also talking to the Soviets, and they were not going to put up with not having a source for cobalt and coltan, which is technology that is used in the military, right? And to create resources for the military. So in other words, those materials produce things that can machinery and technology used for the armed forces in this country, right? So he died over that. However, 1960, 80 years later, almost, we have the Congo coming out and saying, everybody else, see you later. You are not going to be able to directly extract resources from the Congo, right? It's past due. It's past due. But that has a lot to do with just the changing of the guard and the human politics and advancement in general, right? There's going to come a time where the people, you will get fearless people. In Patrice Lumumba's time, he was perhaps not the only one, but one of the stronger ones. Now you can have 1 million Patrice Lumumba in the Congo, right? Because the people on the ground can be just as informed as anyone else in the country because of what they have access to through technology, right? They can go and read the same things that I read that says this is part of what the Congo is moving towards in terms of telling foreign European nations that you're not going to come in here and extract resources, right? To the benefit of Europe, right? So the short answer to that question is that we're going to have to emphasize our common interests and how our common interests are more important than our age-old conflicts, right? Because it is, you know, let's be very clear, the reason why many African or existing conflicts are exploited by Western countries, right? Who exploit those conflicts in order to extract resources and keep the people in chaos while they do so, right? So you can't organize around this issue or that issue because you have someone fueling your conflict. So you never pay attention to the real issues, right? Running interference, a distraction, basically, right? So they keep you in chaos. Meanwhile, the real issue still exists. Anybody coming from an oil wealthy country should be well backed, should be able to go almost anywhere in the world for education. Anybody coming from a resource wealthy nation should be able to have a certain standard of living, right? Have clean water, all of these things. But the reason why those things don't exist is because the leadership that's still in bed with Europe, right? And what should go to the people does not go to the people. If you wanted to get an idea of how the nation should function, you look at Libya before Gaddafi was assassinated. Whether you like Gaddafi or not, the Libyan people benefited from a lot of the national wealth. And that's what you want to see, right? So that's one of the things. I think two things. One, we have to be very real and access the information about why our immediate environment stays in chaos, because everywhere we are, that's pretty much the scenario. Even outside the African continent, other African communities around the world, there are ways in which the Western world keeps us, our communities, in chaos, so we can't organize around the issues that address them exploiting us, right? Whether it's us as human resources or whether it's the land that we are indigenous to, and the resources that come from it, right? And so, and the other way we're going to get there is young blood, like young, new people, right? Who don't carry the same animus that are connected to historical conflicts, right? A younger generation who's like, listen, that hasn't been my reality. I'm going to put that aside, right? Our ethnic conflicts. One of the readings I'm going to give you is, and I'm going to cover it as well in posting a film, which we'll be watching this week. It's called Cuba and African Odyssey. Very interesting film. And this film asserts how Cuba assisted Africa in many independence and liberation struggles. But the focus is not on Cuba. It tells the story of Patrice Lumumba and many other. It goes around and around and around to various countries on the African continent and discusses, you know, in documentary format, the you know, path to liberation, their actual struggles for liberation from imperialism. But notably, there is Amilcar Cabral. And Amilcar Cabral, the great revolutionary from Guinea-Bissau and Cape Verde, was someone who believed and recognized that we have ethnic diversity on the African continent, right? That we have ethnic differences, that we have cultural differences. He acknowledged that, and that's what's so extraordinary about him. He did not just adopt the Marxist-Leninist line, which many of our leadership did, and said that culture didn't matter. He said culture matters, okay? Culture matters and our history matters, because that is one of the ways in which the colonizers, the imperialists, destroyed us and colonized us, right? They erased our culture, and they basically jacked our historical memory. We're forbidden to reference our own history and engage in our own culture, even linguistically, right? So you have, most African countries have what? A European language that is the national language, right? That was very deliberate in colonizing the people. Remove, destroy the people's culture, replace it with your own. But this is the significant thing, and this is my third aspect to the same question, because both of the questions were similar. Amilcar Cabral, in the struggle for independence in Guinea-Bissau from the Portuguese, said that in this struggle, literally the armed struggle, nobody but the people of Guinea-Bissau, who were ethnically different before being colonized and still were, nobody but them could take up arms, because Cuba had come into the mix and was assisting strategically and materially. But Amilcar Cabral said, no Cuban is to come and fight our war. This war is for the people of Guinea-Bissau, who were different before colonialism. And this war, this collective struggle for our liberation in this country, is going to bring us together. His exact words were, the struggle will prepare the people for the victory. And what he meant by that is that our collective struggle, going through this struggle together, people who were prior to this different, and maybe even in conflict with each other, right? Because we know that colonization separates the colonial lines as they cut up the continent. It separates some people who were the same, and it puts together some people who were very different within national borders, right? We could see that all over the African continent, right? So the engagement in a collective struggle against a common opposer, oppressor, exploitative system creates our new bond, creates a new relationship, right? For us as African people. And so this is part of also how we today, this is why we study the past, so we can take the best strategies and practices and apply it to our current problems and situations. So how we form a bond today is by engaging, and this is part of what we're doing. We are collectively, you're all only here to collectively strategize around our current situation. What's the reality? African people and Black people everywhere we are in the world are being mistreated, if not killed, right? Everywhere we are. And so we are coming together. This is a process. And this process, even of engagement right now, is forging a new relationship, forging a new bond, right? And we will be a new people, right? A more unified people, a people who can act on behalf of African people collectively, okay? And to the benefit of African people collectively. And so the process, it's like running a race with someone or working together, right? Your work buddy. Yes, you forge relationships, you forge camaraderie. we have, the reality is that we have a collective and common interest in doing so, right? So those are my answers. I'm gonna see what else is here because I think I'm over time, and I'll be posting in the WhatsApp group. I'll repost the African exclusion measure. I'll be posting on Garvey, Du Bois, and I'll be posting the film at Nkrumah, also Amilcar Cabral, and then the film as well. Okay, so we have a lot of stuff coming ahead to wrap up. Now people have a lot to say. Okay, what is the plan to curb Black on Black violence in our countries? The same solution, the issue of our common interests. However, let's just say this, you don't forfeit on justice, right? So we have that issue out here in the United States. A lot of us ideologically function just like Europeans and are willing to commit atrocities against our own people because that's easier to do. We're in proximity to each other. And very often it's like Fanon talks about, you know, it's like, you know, many of our people have lost our minds to white supremacy and culture. We're in Black bodies, but we have white minds, and we are fully engaged in European and Western culture, which is inherently, because of their history, anti-human. And so we are very often the first to act out some kind of you know, atrocity against each other. We still have to defer to justice. We still have to defer to justice, right? So anybody who is going to, this is why this organization also addresses xenophobia, because that's what it is, right? Meaning xenophobia, yes, there's a political position, a national position on xenophobia, but also xenophobia is Black on Black, right? And the impetus is national identity, right? So you're intolerant of people who don't have the same nationality, but you could still be Black as well, right? You're also a Black person, and how can you commit any atrocity against another Black person? So, so my answer to that question, Patrick, is that we still have to defer to justice. So we don't tolerate the abuse. So in other words, the things that we experience at the hands of Europeans, we will not, it is unacceptable to accept them from our own. And that's why culture is still relevant for us, because whose culture is that, you know, that we are acting out? Is that our own culture? You know, and then if it is, we need to adjust, not adjust and submit to an anti-human culture or practice, but adjust and progress beyond that, because we all want to be safe in this world, and we all want to be safe in our homes, and we all want to be safe in our communities with our own people or around anybody else. I don't think Africa is running out of time, because you're talking about the youngest people on the planet at this time, Chris. Chris Emmanuel. Right. I mean, yes, we know that the present leadership in Africa is very reluctant to give up their individual power for the continent as a whole to become more powerful and more useful to the masses. The idea, the place we want to get to is not even so much a United States of Africa, because we don't want to model anything in Africa after the United States of America, but we want a unified Africa, and a unified Africa that in essence means an Africa where African people, the masses, benefit more than anybody else from what Africa has to offer in terms of resources, material and otherwise, right? What we're trying to get to is that African people benefit more than anybody else. So right now, Europeans in the Western world benefit more from what Africa has to offer than the people on the African continent. Yes, of course, Patrick, yes, there's, yes, Patrick said that there's greedy political leaders. Yes, this is something that is a long time problem and issue. And we, that's our constant struggle. It's a continuous struggle. One of the things I want to reemphasize about I'm saying in terms of what's going to change things, sometimes you don't get to change people, but nature, nature has its remedy for us. None of us live forever, right? And that is the natural order of things. That's the cycle of life. So when you have stubborn, old guard African leadership, know that whatever you see, sometimes those people are just a cautionary tale to you how you don't want to be. And so it's really just not the response, it's the responsibility of the next generation to take the best of what that previous generation had to offer, but leave those things that are useless to us and that are negative to us, leave those things behind, not perpetuate those things. And so in other words, nature is going to take care of all of us, right? Ultimately. And sometimes that's unfortunately how it has to happen with some African leadership, but the responsibility of the next generation, the younger generation, is not to perpetuate some of those adverse sentiment, negative qualities that the previous, because a lot of times people grow up and they become their parents. There's a saying, and their parents meaning that generation. There's a saying, we are doomed to be our parents unless we decide to be something different. We are doomed. And so when great, your parents can teach you great things, but you also should be aware of your parents' contradictions and don't duplicate those things, right? And so in that instance, that older generation or that generation before us, I don't want to say older, but the generation before us, you can see their contradictions, you can see the current contradictions, and we have to be committed to duplicating, and we have to push for new blood to move through, African nations, new, young, and fearless political leadership that is willing to do things differently. Okay. Frankly speaking, the United States of Africa at this point is compound, complex reasons for so many. Yes, but our advocacy can be reached having one passport. Okay, so one passport exists. The currency, we have regional, right? But there's regional unifications of the currency, right? Cross-country trades, we have that, the Pan-African free and fair trade, and then we can work in this, right? So that's not bad, right? And I'm somebody who was a part of that conversation in 2004, and we didn't have any of these things that you mentioned. Okay, so that is progress. We need people who are going to make sure that it's authentic, right? And continuous. The creation of Monrovia Group, Casablanca Group caused Africa nothing but a total, absolutely, sovereignty and power to fight for Africa. Absolutely. I'm very familiar with it. Yes. Absolutely. Are African leaders not prepared to relinquish power? Right. They're not ready to give up power. White on white crime is the Russian versus Ukraine. Right. I have sick of the Biden and Black. Yes, me too, Chris. Running out of time in terms of being enslaved again by China, French, Russia, or whoever. If we don't get our act together, PLO Lumumba laid out a great case of that happening. Yes. So let me just say this. I saw the question on black crime, and I see your question, Emmanuel, about white on white crime. Let me be very clear. That's just propaganda. And people start to characterize, and I'm way over now by 9 minutes, so I'm going to wrap up. But People like to characterize conflicts between African people as, you know, something that happens because we're inherently wretched in some way. That's pure nonsense. Nobody is more violent. I teach world history. I didn't, in this group, I don't think I really like gave you a full background or whatever, but I'm a history and I teach history and political science, and I teach them in the Africana context. That being said, nobody is more violent than Europeans. When I teach world history, most of the first half of the class is spent on the human history and the development of Africa. Why? Because we are not just human, but we are the humans. Most of the time the human beings have been on this earth, we have been in Africa, okay? Of that 200,000 to 300,000 years. And we have been culturally African because for most of the time on this earth, to be human is synonymous with being African. Okay, the advent of the European and even other groups of people in the Americas is a relatively recent thing. Europeans only existing 7,000 to 8,000 years out of our 200,000 to 300,000 years, and Native Americans and others only in existence for, you know, anywhere between, you know, 10 to 50,000 years or so. Okay, certainly not older than African people. That being said, I almost lost my train of thought. That being said, you know, we are the people who, I lost my train of thought. We're the people who are going to solve our issues. And when we look at the larger picture of world history, I got my train of thought back. When I teach human history and I get out of Africa finally and get to Europe, majority of the history is about war. And, you know, I noticed that, but my students also noticed that as well, that majority of the history is marked by war. And it's only when Africans are in conflict that we try to make it mean that African people are wretched and that the war is characteristic, or conflict is characteristic of us. But that has a lot to do with propaganda and the way people want to put want to label people. For example, Europeans, so they always like to say in that in Africa, there's an ethnic cleansing of this sort or that sort. Let's just be very clear. World War II, the Holocaust was Europeans engaging in an ethnic cleansing. Yeah, of other Europeans who were of a particular culture and faith. That's what that was, an ethnic cleansing. They conducted an ethnic cleansing, started in one country, namely Germany, and were moving across Europe, seeking to purge all of those nations of a particular ethnic group of people. And we know, we're Africans, we know how when people want to purge a certain group of people, they will do it under religious auspices, right? But we know that one group may tend to be of this religious orientation or that, right? So the ethnicity is aligning with the religious orientation, right? So it may look like it's Christian Muslim or this or that, Jewish Muslim, or whatever the case may be. But it's really about who the people are, right? So we know that. That being said, Europeans did that. And unfortunately, they brought the whole world into their conflict. The difference with us is that, and I just did I was on a panel on war, and this was part of my presentation, which was that I noted that when we engage in conflict, we don't bring the whole world into it. The whole world is not going to end up in a war over a conflict amongst African people. When Europeans fight, and they have been fighting forever, I might share something next week to show you a map of Europe and how the borders of all of these nations constantly change. But what that denotes is the wars. They're warring and seizing different territories constantly. And it's notable. That is a notable characteristic of European culture because they've always been resource poor. And so they have always had to fight each other for resources, for land, right? Europe was overpopulated over 400 or 500 years ago, which is part of what pushes them out into the world, right? For territories and resources. So you can imagine, but war, they are from a war culture. That is a notable thing. And let's take the British, for example, who would come out into the world and colonize large parts of the world. The British, the people that would be known as British today, they commit fratricide for 1,000 years. The history is well documented. 1,000 years commit fratricide against each other. Okay, with father against son, brother against brother. That's what that means. Ethnic warring, tribal, really, they impose the word tribal on us, but tribe is their word and their reality. They were engaged in tribal wars for 1,000 years before they even come out into the world. Okay, and the strongest among them imposed the larger territory, right? It makes up the comprises the larger British society, right? So that they take the society ultimately. They absorb every other group. But so, you know, don't buy into it. Like, that's not real, right? There is no such thing. People fight who are closest to them. We've got to be on the side of justice, whether it's the guy right next to us or the guy across the ocean. Oh, okay. I'm sorry, Sanko. All right. So I think, yes, Alan Chroma, yes, I do. Western nations absolutely play a role in Africa not being united, because the Africa being, okay, so my last thing I'm going to say before I wrap up is this, and I was going to wait to get to it next week. We may think we're involved in a sterile process, like, oh, this Pan-Africanist stuff, you know, we're just trying to make sure that we're safe everywhere in the world. So for Europeans to function in the world the way they do, to have the resources they have, it is absolutely at the expense of Africa and African people. Whether that's in human resource, labor, or in material resource, right? That's really the rule everywhere we are. And so our unity is something that is in opposition to their well-being, for sure. Absolutely. Okay. We may think, because that's not, see, we have a totally different culture. That's not even on the mind of African people, trying to impact the outcomes of a people who are across an ocean or across a sea. Right? That's not even on the mind. We're more practical. We're dealing with what's right in front of us. That's why every time I teach this course, there's so many questions about how to resolve day-to-day and internal and geopolitical conflicts that are in proximity to us. Having a conflict across the ocean or across the sea is something that's not in the nature or even on the mind of most African people way back when or now, even though we Boubacar crossed an ocean, right? But didn't cross an ocean to make war like Europeans did, because he wasn't poor, but that being, resource poor. That being said, please don't ever think that our unity, that there are not people who don't oppose our unity. There are people who oppose our unity. This is why we're going to watch Cuba and African Odyssey and look at the case of Patrice Lumumba. You know, we think like, who should care that we come together? Are you serious? When we come together, that means other people who are not in the places where the bulk of the resources come from, the world's resources come from, will have to be second to us. The whole world, to be quite frank with you, and I don't want to depress anybody, is slanted in the way that is in favor of African exploitation, which is directly to the benefit of European well-being, wealth, and your well-being and wealth in the world. Those things are diametrically opposed to each other. Right. Europe does not have the affluence or anything that it has without Africa in the mix. Right? The queen, you know, the British queen don't have her crown and the diamonds in it without Africa. So yes, as we come together and we put each other first, right? Yes, everybody else becomes secondary, right? And just by saying that, you know, the wealth of Africa should be for the people first is diametrically opposed to the well-being and the wealth of Europe. Europe has no real wealth. Eastern Europeans got a little something, natural gas, and you know, a couple of Europeans have natural gas, but in terms of the resources that Africa has, no comparison. Europe can't survive without Africa, exploiting Africa and African people. Okay, they cannot. The lives they live, they cannot. This technology we're on right now doesn't exist without Africa. I'm sure most of you know that, right? Africans say, no, you don't exploit our economy, take the raw resources out of here and throw pennies at us for it and then sell it back to us to, you know, at super profits and to the rest of the world for super profits. That happens, it puts the rest of the world in shock. But listen, it's the inevitable. It's the inevitable. It's an inevitable. Okay. The great thing about human beings is this, and this is why we're priceless. We can improve ourselves. We can become smarter. Yeah. We can become stronger. We can heal ourselves, right? Literally, the human body can heal itself. The human mind can improve itself. Right? The human body can improve itself, right? The guys know you can get muscles. The girls know you can become faster. Yes. And that being said, with the youngest people on the planet and their access to the rest of the world, like we having this conversation, that is what gives us the best chances. And we have that. Right? So I do think that it can be done. Okay, folks, I'm over. I'm gonna, yes, of course, our unit is always fought by Europeans. Yes, thank you. I'm glad it's an interesting discussion. Okay. Hi, Florine, welcome. Okay, Oscar, brother Alan. Okay, great. So I will be posting the things, the items I mentioned. Hello, Ali Mami from Sierra Leone. No problem. I think I answered all the questions. I'll be posting the materials in the group, and this week is also the final week, so we will also be watching the film Cuba and African Odyssey that will be posted along with the documents. You know, Du Bois, Marcus Garvey, Nkrumah, Amilcar Cabral, and the film. So you have quite a bit to keep you busy this week, okay? I think that's it. And then also too, will be next week, I will run through my version of, you know, some of the things that as a result of this course, you should be doing, actively doing, right? Because part of what we are doing here with I Love Black People is actively loving our people through action. Loving our people through action. I come from a political organization that always said that precise thing, right? There are a lot of people who say, you love Black people, you love African people. They say, yeah, I love our people. Okay, now, how do you love us, right? We need to love our people through action, right? So there are certain steps. And for us, this is minimal, right? You know, saying where it's safe for your brother who's right there. It's safe for him to go here, there, or wherever, based on your movement. So that's I wouldn't say it's small, because it could save someone's life, right? It will save some of our lives, literally, right? It's not small, but it is not laborious, right? It's not labor intensive. It's just us using our ingenuity. Okay, so I thank you all for taking your time, contributing your time. That is another action, right? Giving your God-given time to our collective cause. So I appreciate your time, your energy, and your participation. I will be posting the stated readings and film in the group, and I look forward to seeing you all next week. Okay, I am because we are. And please, everyone, be safe. You're very welcome.
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Wright, for
Okay.
this special informative session we had. And I hope
Thank you.
even others enjoyed it, and even they learned a lot from you. So thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. I am because
okay. You too. I am because we are.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
bye.